we'll go through that now. And so we started this, as many of you know, this is we have the lobbyists and we work with them for trying to identify different the key legislators that we want to influence or have discussions with. The biggest problem we have is that year in, year out, when we think something has been taken care of, all of a sudden it comes back something restricting anchoring areas that get pushed into bills or get kind of it's a subterfuge sometimes. So we're just trying to be very transparent about where we stand on things. Many people may know that we were actually part of, I know Kim and Kingsley were part of getting the current legislation that was done in 2021. That is what we are kind of standing on to have that happen for us, which is the anchoring limited areas. But that's just kind of part of this whole bigger picture. So when we start, we really want to talk about, if we go in and talk to a legislator like that, we want to thank them, right? We really do want to thank them for the work that's been done to date. There's many of them who have done some pretty good work and who continue to support these efforts. So we really want to make sure that we understand that we want to tell them that we understand that they have put money and dollars and resources towards protecting our waterways in general in the state of Florida. So, and then that part of that, of course, is that we are also committed to good legislation because we did help craft the current Florida statute, which is Chapter 327, vessel safety, and then the Section 4108, which is specific to anchoring. And we can also provide the actual statutes if that's of interest to people to just read through. So from there, kind of like our big picture of what we want them to consider, that we really wanted to have. Again, we may only have 5 minutes, and if we only have 5 minutes, these are the key considerations we want to talk about, which is that there is existing legislation. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. It's a good statute. It was agreed upon. It's only been in effect for 2 years, so let's give that the opportunity to work. Every municipality has access to it. They are allowed to, with the state, all they have to do is enact it, put signs, and then law enforcement of their agencies at every level, whether it's their county, their individual municipality, or FWC, can enforce those laws. That there's already money devoted to quite a few programs that have something to do with having cleaner waterways, safer waterways, getting derelict boats out. These all are currently exist. So we're just trying to make sure that they understand that there's a lot of things already on the books that all they need to do is either be utilized or enforced. And if they do those things, there's no need for them to go outside of that and create their own new legislation or change anything that's existing. And again, these have been in place for 2021, and we really would like for them to give them the opportunity to work because they are working in certain areas. For example, in Broward County alone, they have put in 2 anchoring limited areas at North and South Lakes in Hollywood, and they've had very positive results as far as being able to clean out a lot of derelict boats and long-term storage boats. And then we're going into just who we are, just a little bit more about why we're in front of them, what we're talking about. And again, you may not even get this opportunity, but if they've given time, these are the things that we want them to understand about us, that we have these, have significant numbers of members that are very active in cruising, and that we have banded together as part of our, as we've joint task force to address these issues as they come up. And then again, more numbers. I think a lot of times that people don't understand how slow our boats actually go. Or the kind of boaters that we are. We're not these hardcore, well, maybe some of you are partiers, but really in the general sense of who we are and what we're talking about is, we are cruisers. We are people who are transiting the Florida waterways. We're going up and down the coast. We may be anchoring out to wait for a weather window to go to the Bahamas. But most of us are not hammer down, going super fast. And it takes us a while to actually make the journey from Jacksonville to the Keys. So we talk about things like the average boat between all of our groups would take 9 days to travel from Jacksonville to the Keys. So the anchoring areas are extremely important to us for safety, for weather, and for making those things happen. So just again, a little bit more background to try to draw that picture of how different it is. This is not like getting in a car and being able to drive from Jacksonville to Miami and being, we're done. So and also we wanted to kind of give a little bit more perspective on boating in general, how much boating gives to the state of Florida, because it is very core to our way of life. There are currently over 1 million vessels registered in the state of Florida. Now, that's every kind of vessel, but that's 1 million people who have a vessel registered in the state of Florida. And that's per the FWC. And if you just do a little bit of quick math and you're talking about just numbers, because, there's a lot of times there's dollars involved with that. We're talking an average of $119 per vessel per year for registration fees. So that's a lot of dollars that is being pumped into our community, into the state, and into their very specific areas, because they get those fees, right? So again, the top 5 counties, which are also happen to be where we have the areas of resistance to anchoring, to wanting to put regulations on anchoring, happen to have the largest number of registrations. So that's Miami-Dade, Pinellas, Lee, Broward, and Hillsborough counties. Average, there's over 120,000 boats purchased in Florida annually. Again, sales tax, you just want to talk about numbers. So it's an average of 76,000 sales tax per boat that is garnered. Again, these go to counties and to areas again that support our industries. Furthering that, it's a $31.3 billion annual economic impact boating has on the state of Florida. And that's per the National Marine Manufacturers Association. So again, these are not small dollars. This is not, maybe our numbers don't look big as far as the number of cruisers we have, but if you just talk about the impact that most boating has on the state of Florida, it's quite large. It supports, over 100,000 jobs. There's over 7,000 businesses that are directly supported via boating and boaters. And again, just break down on the counties that are most impacted, which again correlates strangely and funnily enough to the areas that we have the most pushback on having anchoring designated areas. So this is the big crux of everything, right? The chapter, the Florida statute, chapter 327 on vessel safety. It was redone in 2021. I'm sorry, it was updated in 2022 to reflect a different change, which is the 45-day restriction for an anchoring limited area. Again, this is on the books. This is things that are being used in one location. There are new areas, 2 counties are looking at it right now, but there's no need for new legislation. They just need to enact what's already on the books. The municipalities, local law enforcement, and state agencies all have the authority to enforce these. So there's no reason for them to come up with their own restrictions. They just need to enact the things that are in existence. Derelict boats is the number one thing that people talk about. So our point is we don't like them either, right? We are absolutely the same advocate as you are, legislators and people in backyards who don't want to see them. We don't like them either. They take up our anchorages. They're problem for our people who pay their insurance or are concerned about property damage or anything else. There are programs, just like with the ALA, there are programs in place that are funded by FWC and others that can help with this. So there are ways to get this taken care of, that it doesn't have to change doing anchoring rights. This is something that they just need to apply for, enforce, and use. And again, a lot of this is we just don't believe that the legislators we're talking to are aware of all of these programs. We hear about pumping out overboard, right? Again, we want our waterways clean. We are dedicated to that. It's not acceptable. It's never acceptable, but there are rules in place that, there's the Clean Water Act. There's a Florida Department of Environmental Clean Vessel Act that was enacted in 92. And there are many fines and ways that you can go after somebody who's doing that specifically. You don't have to re-legislate to have an impact on that. Also, respectful use of waterways. This is another thing that has come up from some of these legislators, that there are illegal businesses operating on sandbars or taking advantage of some of the areas to conduct illegal businesses. Again, there are already rules in place that have nothing to do with anchoring, that are everything to do with enforcing, laws on business operations, which have a much stiffer and higher penalty than anything you could do with anchoring. And then we want to just go into a little bit about common bonds, about, like, we understand, that there's a lot of things, but we're all Floridians, and being in Florida, there are just things to understand that state of Florida holds the title for public waterways. Like, they hold that in trust for us. There is, just because you have a backyard that looks over the water, you don't own the water. And there's a lot of information around that. So we just want to kind of just make that point again, that it is not, especially if it's a navigable water area, and all of those ideas, like, it's really the state of Florida holds that in trust for us. It's just like beaches. A lot of the beaches, they're not private beaches, they are state of Florida beaches, and the state of Florida holds that for us, right? And they protect that for us. Also, we understand the public safety concerns. There is a lot of that out there, but again, we have an amazing group of FWC who is charged. That is their job. That's what they do. They are responsible for boating safety and in protecting our waterways and our fisheries and a lot of other things. Again, there's no need to go and put new legislation in when we already have an extraordinary organization that can take care of these things for us, that they just need to be enforced. So there's different avenues that you can go through without having to add a new piece of legislation for a specific anchoring area. For us on our side, of course, a big thing about anchoring is that it's about having a safe harborage, and also for navigation. It's, they say there's a right to that as far as, mariners have, but just in general, it's tightly close. It's tied to maritime law and all kinds of other things. But the truth is, it's about safety for those who are underway. It's about safety for the vessels and the passengers aboard. So having really restricted areas, and especially when you go back and you look at how slow some of our boats move, or the areas that we're trying to get to. So say we're trying to get to the Bahamas and we have to wait for a weather window, having a restricted area and with no anchoring can really impact the safety of people trying to make that crossing. And then again, just what are some of the things that are working? Like, let's give them a thank you of, we support when there is good legislation, we support it. We're not here just to say no on everything. When things are good, we absolutely agree with it. So again, when 327.4108 came out, we were part of the group that had the conversations around that and agreed with quite a bit of it. Just since 2021, there's been a lot of new installation of signs and rules in accordance, with those statutes. So it's available to municipalities, cities, and counties to do that. There's been some very successful mooring field pilot programs that have come to be that have done exceptionally well. And Jensen Beach Mooring Field is an example where they just put it in 2022, and they're already planning expansion because it's gone so well for them. The VTIP program, the derelict boat identification and removal program, they already have 363 boats out of the 627 that are marked that have been said, yep, we can get those out. We have the paperwork and we just need to process them. So again, there's a lot of really great things going on already. They just need to be given the time to go through it. And then just at the end of it, when thank them for their time. And we really are we want to be a resource for them. So if they have a question for us, or if there's anything that comes up that they think would be of value, we're here for them. We're here to answer questions. So it's just all of our contact information. So that's the end of the PowerPoint. And I know Kingsley's going to give us a little bit more overview on how those meetings should go and kind of the expectations of the discussion. So again, that was the bigger picture. These are kind of the bigger picture points. You may not get that amount of time. You may not be able to give them that much information, but we designed it just so that we would have all of that. And if it's something we can leave behind, or if you get somebody who's really interested, at least we have all that information to give.